Welcome to Warfare Codex. If you enjoy fascinating and unusual history, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories. Now, let's dive into the strange and extraordinary world of history's most unique individuals. 1. The betrayal of Julius Caesar. Et tu, Brute? 44 BC. Julius Caesar was one of the most powerful figures in Roman history. A brilliant military strategist and a charismatic leader, he had transformed Rome from a crumbling republic into a rising empire. However, his growing power and ambition made him many enemies, especially among the Roman Senate. Many senators feared that Caesar was becoming a dictator, someone who would completely erase the traditions of the Roman Republic. The leader of this conspiracy was Marcus Junius Brutus, a man whom Caesar trusted deeply, almost like a son. On the Ides of March 15th, 44 BC, as Caesar entered the Senate chamber, he was surrounded by a group of senators, each armed with a dagger. They attacked him in a brutal assassination, stabbing him 23 times. But what shocked Caesar the most was seeing Brutus among them. In his final moments, he uttered the infamous words, "Et tu, Brute?" You too, Brutus? This betrayal was not just personal, it changed history. Instead of saving the Republic, Brutus and his fellow senators triggered a civil war, leading to the rise of Augustus Caesar, the first emperor of Rome. Caesar's death did not stop Rome from becoming an empire. Instead, it ensured it. Chapter 2. Judas Iscariot, the 30 pieces of silver, 30 AD. Few names in history are as synonymous with betrayal as Judas Iscariot. He was one of the 12 apostles, the closest disciples of Jesus Christ. He had witnessed Jesus' miracles, traveled with him, and even shared meals with him. Yet, despite this deep connection, he committed the ultimate act of treachery. According to the Bible, Judas agreed to betray Jesus to the Roman authorities for 30 pieces of silver, a price that, at the time, was the value of a slave. He led the soldiers to the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was praying. In order to identify him in the darkness, Judas kissed Jesus on the cheek, forever making the term Judas's kiss, a symbol of ultimate betrayal. Jesus was arrested, put on trial, and crucified. Racked with guilt, Judas threw the money away and later hanged himself. For over 2,000 years, his name has remained a symbol of treachery and deceit. In many cultures, calling someone a Judas is the worst insult imaginable. 3. Benedict Arnold, America's most infamous traitor, 1780. During the American Revolutionary War, Benedict Arnold was considered a hero. He was a brilliant general, leading American forces to victory at the Battle of Saratoga. But despite his military skill, he felt unappreciated. He was passed over for promotions, and he believed that other generals were receiving more recognition than he deserved. Angry and resentful, Arnold made a fateful decision. He switched sides. He began secret negotiations with the British, offering to surrender the American fortress of West Point in exchange for £20,000. However, the plot was discovered when an American patrol captured British Major John Andre, who was carrying the secret documents. Arnold barely escaped capture and fled to the British side, where he was given a position in their army. His betrayal shocked America. Overnight, his name became a synonym for treason. Even today, calling someone a Benedict Arnold is the ultimate insult in American culture. Despite switching sides, Arnold never gained the trust or respect of the British. He lived the rest of his life in disgrace, dying in London as a man without a country. 4. The fall of Constantinople, the gatekeeper's treachery, 1453. For over 1,000 years, Constantinople stood as the mighty capital of the Byzantine Empire. With its massive walls, it had withstood countless attacks from invaders. But in 1453, Sultan Mehmed II of the Ottoman Empire launched a full-scale assault to take the city. For 53 days, the Byzantines held their ground. Their walls were battered by cannons, their soldiers were exhausted, but they still refused to surrender. It seemed as if the city might survive yet another siege. But then, disaster struck. A small, unlocked gate, known as the Kerkoporta, was accidentally left open, or possibly deliberately unlocked by a traitor. Ottoman troops poured through, overwhelming the defenders. Constantinople fell, marking the end of the Byzantine Empire and the beginning of Ottoman rule. Had it not been for this single act of betrayal, the Byzantine Empire might have lasted longer. Instead, its 1,000-year reign ended in one brutal night. 5. Mir Jafar, the man who sold India to the British, 1757. In 1757, India was at a crossroads. The powerful Mughal Empire was weakening, and European powers, especially the British East India Company, were seeking control. The key to controlling India was Bengal, the richest province of the empire. Its ruler, Siraj-ud-Dawla, was determined to resist British expansion. He had an army far larger than the British, and he was on the verge of victory at the Battle of Plassey. But then came Mir Jafar, one of his own generals. Secretly, he had made a deal with the British. In exchange for betraying Siraj-ud-Dawla, he would be made the new ruler of Bengal. During the battle, Mir Jafar and his troops stood by, refusing to fight. Siraj-ud-Dawla was defeated, captured, and executed. True to their word, the British installed Mir Jafar as the new Nawab, ruler of Bengal, but he was nothing more than a puppet. Under his rule, Bengal became the first major Indian region to fall under British control. This single act of betrayal paved the way for 200 years of British rule in India. To this day, Mir Jafar's name is used as an insult in India, meaning traitor. 6. The Betrayal of the Templars. The Fall of the Warrior Monks, 1307. For nearly 200 years, the Knights Templar were one of the most powerful military orders in the world. They were warrior monks, feared in battle and respected by kings. They controlled vast amounts of wealth, land, and influence. But their downfall came from the very people who once trusted them. By the early 1300s, the Templars had become too powerful and too wealthy. The King of France, Philip IV, owed them a massive debt, one he had no intention of repaying. So he devised a plan: destroy the Templars and take their riches. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, in a highly coordinated attack, Philip ordered the mass arrest of every Templar in France. Thousands of knights were tortured into confessing false crimes. They were accused of heresy, blasphemy, and even devil worship. Their leader, Grand Master Jacques de Molay, was burned alive at the stake. Before he died, he cursed the Pope and King Philip, predicting they would die soon. And they did. The betrayal of the Templars is still remembered today. In fact, some believe that this event is why Friday the 13th is considered unlucky. 7. Ephialtes, the man who doomed the 300, 480 BC. The Battle of Thermopylae is one of the most legendary battles in history. The Spartan king Leonidas and his 300 warriors stood against the full might of the Persian Empire led by King Xerxes. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the Spartans held their ground, blocking the narrow pass of Thermopylae and killing thousands of Persian soldiers. For 2 days, the Spartans seemed unstoppable. But then, a Greek traitor named Ephialtes changed everything. Ephialtes approached Xerxes with a secret. He knew of a hidden mountain path that would allow the Persian army to flank the Spartans. Xerxes seized the opportunity. Persian forces surrounded the Spartans, cutting off their escape. Leonidas and his men fought to the death, but they were eventually wiped out. Ephialtes had betrayed his own people for personal gain, hoping to be rewarded by the Persians. But instead of wealth and power, he became a symbol of treachery in Greek history. In fact, in modern Greek, the name Ephialtes also means nightmare. 8. Mata Hari, the femme fatale, spy, 1917. During World War I, spies played a crucial role in gathering intelligence, but no spy is as famous or infamous as Mata Hari. She was born as Margaretha Zell, a Dutch woman who reinvented herself as an exotic dancer and a seductive courtesan. She performed in the most elite circles of Europe, charming politicians, generals, and aristocrats. But behind her glamorous image, Mata Hari was hiding a deadly secret. She was working as a double agent. She was accused of spying for Germany against France. The French government claimed that her intelligence leaks had led to the deaths of thousands of French soldiers. In 1917, Mata Hari was arrested and put on trial. Despite little evidence, she was found guilty and sentenced to death by firing squad. On the day of her execution, she refused a blindfold, staring her executioners in the eyes as they fired. Some say she even blew them a kiss before she died. To this day, historians debate whether Mata Hari was truly a dangerous spy or simply a scapegoat. But her betrayal, real or not, remains one of the most legendary in history. 9. The Betrayal of Anne Boleyn, the Queen Who Lost Her Head, 1536. Anne Boleyn was one of the most influential and controversial queens in English history. She was the woman for whom King Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church, changing England forever. But her rise to power also made her many enemies. Henry had been obsessed with Anne for years, pursuing her while still married to Catherine of Aragon. When Anne finally became queen, she failed to give him what he truly wanted, a male heir. Instead, she gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth, who would later become one of England's greatest monarchs. As Anne's influence weakened, Henry's eyes turned to another woman, Jane Seymour. But simply divorcing Anne was not enough. His advisors, led by Thomas Cromwell, orchestrated her downfall. Anne was accused of adultery, treason, and even incest with her own brother. These charges were almost certainly false, but Henry wanted her gone. In 1536, Anne Boleyn was sentenced to death. She was beheaded at the Tower of London, executed by a French swordsman. Her betrayal was not just by her enemies, but by the very man who once risked everything to have her. To this day, Anne Boleyn remains one of history's most tragic figures, a queen betrayed by the king she loved. 10. Kim Philby, the double agent who fooled the world, 1963. For decades, Kim Philby was a respected British intelligence officer working at the highest levels of MI6, the UK's spy agency. He was charming, intelligent, and completely trusted by his colleagues. But Philby was living a lie. For over 30 years, he was actually a Soviet spy, secretly passing information to the KGB. He had infiltrated British intelligence so deeply that he was even responsible for hunting down Soviet spies, while secretly protecting them. His betrayal was so effective that he compromised entire British and American operations, causing the deaths of countless agents. In 1963, after years of suspicion, Philby defected to the Soviet Union, escaping justice. He lived the rest of his life in Moscow, hailed as a hero by the Soviets, but despised in the West. Even among spies, his level of deception remains unmatched. Thanks for watching Warfare Codex. If you enjoyed this journey into history's strangest figures, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing stories. See you in the next one.